So good afternoon. My name is Eric Bosha. My name is Eric Bosha. I'm Director of Product Management at Humanware. And I'm very happy and pleased to see you this afternoon on this nice webinar that we're going to be having for credits also. And how else are we going to spend our COVID moments at home? Why not listen to me talk about math? Woohoo, exciting stuff. So again, my name is Eric Beauchamp. If you have any questions in this live webinar, just type in the chat and I will be happy to answer any kinds of question that you have live. If you have a Math Connect with you or a Prodigy Connect 12, because I know I send it out to everybody that had a Prodigy Connect 12 also. We'll be seeing the Math Connect calculator. So the graphing part of it won't be on the Connect 12, but it is on the Math Connect. And if you do have one at home, please try to follow me at home and try to do the same thing that I'm doing. And as you can see in the back there, I got my advanced engineering mathematics books that I got out last night, and starting to brush myself on math functions, because this is going to be a very interesting webinar. And also, we'll learn how to set up your Math Connect to be able for your students to take advantage of their Math Connect features to do exams. So let's say if you want to block out the Wi-Fi, you want to block out the internet possibility, you want to block out the distance viewing capabilities on the Math Connect, I'm going to show you how. And let's go for it. So I have my Math Connect right here. So if you are following with me, I'm going to show you just so that you know where you're at on the Prodigy software. I want to show you where to go get your version numbers, because I'm going to show you the latest version that's in the field right now. So when you're in Prodigy or your Math Connect is turned on, you can go into your settings application, click on that, and then scroll down to the About option. Should be the last one in the list. And the first version that you see on top is Prodigy 4.2.1.7722. So that's the latest software that is out in the field right now. So if you want to follow along, if you're on that version, you'll have the same thing as what I have right now on my screen. So if you don't have that, you can update by going one up in the menus, in the settings menus again, and then choosing System. In System, what you need to do before updating is to connect to the internet. You can do that by using the Wi-Fi setup. So if you go into Wi-Fi setup and you only have one option and it says Wi-Fi off, tap on it and your Wi-Fi is going to be turned on. Once it's on, you have access to Wi-Fi networks. You can click on that and you'll see all the possible networks that you can connect to. Select one and it's going to prompt you for your password. You just enter the password using the keyboard and it should be connected to the internet. And right now I'm connected to my internet right now with D-Link 5529, and I'm able to, if I want to, update my Math Connect. So I'm going to go back again, 2 screens up, and inside my System menu, I have Software Update. So if you tap on that, it's going to check for updates. Now my system is up to date, so it's going to tell me that it's up to date. But if you have an update to do, it's going to tell you to install or cancel, so you can install your software as you wish. Okay, so, and if you're stuck somewhere, I'm going to show you a nice little trick. 2 fingers, double tap, and you're to the main menu. You're back to where you know where all the stuff is, and we're going to go to our calculator. So we're going to scroll to the left. Furthest down to the left, the last one will be the calculator. So if you tap on calculator, right now in the default mode, it's going to be set as a standard calculator, very basic calculator. You can do some divisions, multiplication, subtraction, additions, all these really basic equations. So 2 plus 2 will equal 4. So that's basically what you have. And you got even that double zero. So you have 2.000 all there for you. That's a very nice feature, the double zero. But let's say we want something more for your students. What you do is that you have 2 icons on the top left corner of the screen. The top one is to go back, and right underneath that, is the settings menu. So you click on that button, the gear box button, and you'll be brought to the settings menu. And in this settings, it's only the settings for the calculator. What you can do is change the mods. You can change the grid color. And as you noticed before, my grid was red. So let's go and select blue, for example. So I'm going to click on my grid color. I can choose through different colors. I'm going to choose blue for this webinar. I'm going to go back to my calculator. Now my grid is blue instead of red. So saying my grid, it's all the surrounding of the numbers that is blue now. Go back to my settings. I can also set the angle units. If I tap on that, I have the possibility of setting it to degrees, radians, or gradients. So depending on the level of your student, you can choose whatever units that you want to use. So well, I'm going to keep it in degrees. It's simpler, it's standard, and if you go higher up in education, you'll learn about radians, so the pi factors and all that. So, and also in gradients. So I'm going to leave it in degrees for this webinar, and then I'm going to show you now the mode option. So if you tap on mode, right now we've selected the standard mode. Why I'm saying that is that you have a checkbox on the right-hand side of standard. So that's what we're using now, but let's try scientific mode. So I'm going to tap on that, or just browse to it. If you have that locator, that means that you're voicing all the menus. You can select it by browsing down the list and having that checkbox on the right-hand side. Once you have that checkbox, go back to the calculator using the back button, which is on top left corner of the screen. It's always there. That back button is always there. And now, if you notice, it's the same thing as what we had previously, but instead of having a 2-0 at the bottom and the last row of the grid beside the 0 button, instead of having a 00, you have a 2-arrow button. So if you tap on that, it's going to bring you to different trigonometry or logarithmic functions. So here we have on the top, you have the sine, the cosine, the tan, and then at the bottom you have either the ln function, the log function, the exponential function, and that right underneath that you have the square of the function, the square root of a function of a number, and then you have also right beside the square root of a number, you have the exponent of a number, and then you have the pi constant that can be used also. And at the bottom, you have the 2 brackets and the switch button, which is the 2 arrows pointing to each other. So let's try an equation. So let's do sine of 180 degrees, which should give me 0, right? Close that parenthesis. Right now, you're seeing the equation on the top, the answer at the bottom. If you want the answer bigger, just hit the equal sign. You'll get the 0 there. So again, sine. Let's try something else. So it's not going to give me 0. 90 brackets equal. I'm going to get 1. So sine is really a sine, a sine signal, which is going from 1 to 0. Okay, somebody says that my sound is getting fuzzy. Okay, so I'll try. I'm not using Wi-Fi, by the way. I'm using a landline, so it shouldn't affect it. So I'm going to put my mouth right closer to the mic. Okay. I hope this is better. So in the scientific calculation or calculator, you'll have these functions which will give you numbers as a result. You're not going to see graphics. Okay, so I have the right microphone. Okay. So same for the law, the exponential. So let's do an exponential function. So let's do e to the 5. And that's going to give me a number, a decimal number, 148.41. So that's how you do an exponential. You can also use a pi constant. When you use a pi constant, and well, it's going to write out the number for you, 3.1415 whatever, and then it continues on. So that's the constant that you can use. You can use also the square root of a number. So let's try that. I can clear the screen just by hitting the CLR on the top right corner of the calculator. So I'm going to do a square root of 4 equal 2. Okay, so that's very nice numbers and all that. So you can have all kinds of possibilities, but you're here for the big stuff where you want to see the graphics. So I'm going to go back to my settings, the second bottom on the top left corner of the screen, into mod, and then I'm going to select graphing. And graphing, you're going to get another interface. You're not going to get the 00, but you still have the switch button, which is at the right corner of the calculator, and that's going to switch to a different interface. So you got the numbers on one, and you got the functions on the other one. And on the right-hand side, you got the graph button that you have there. That is used to graph the function. So let's go through a couple of them. And what's behind this calculator is all the Desmos engine. So Desmos, D-E-S-M-O-S. You can go look it up on the internet. You'll see it's a nice engine and a nice calculator. They do all kinds of stuff. We started integrating their calculator inside Prodigy, and this is going to be an iterative process, and we're going to add some more stuff to it as we move along. And if you do have the possibility of emailing me some improvements or some suggestion on these graphing options. So I have a question here. If I don't have graphing abilities, if you don't have the graphing abilities, either you don't have a Mat Connect, you have a Prodigy Connect 12, or you're not at the right version. Another question that I have here, will these features be available on the Connect 12 or the 16i, the Reveal 16i? We're looking into integrating it into the 16i right now because it's not part of the APH portfolio, but the Connect 12, it's going to be something else. It's going to be coming in a different form factor. Okay, just because we need to differentiate between the Mat Connect and the Connect 12 for quota fun purposes. Okay, so let's continue this. So let's start. If I switch to my my interface here, and I got all kinds of trig function when I switch. So I have the sine again, the cosine, the tan, but then I got the cosecant, the secant functions that I can play around with. But now I'm going to get the numbers, but I can get the graphing. So to get graphings, I need variables. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say y is equal to sine of x. So basically what I'm telling the calculator is that I would like to see a sine function going through the x-axis. Okay, so once I write my equation, I just hit that graph button here, and it should graph my sine function. And as predicted, we have our sine function in my graph. So you got the x-axis, the y-axis, and you got the sine, which is in blue because that's what I chose as a color for my grid. And then you have the button banner right at the bottom that you can either tap the plus to zoom in. And what that's going to do, it's not going to increase the numbers on the graphs, but I'm going to be zooming in my graph. So I can hide that button banner also, and then I can just pan on my graph to analyze what I have on my screen. And what's nice about that is that I can put my finger anywhere on the graph, and I'll have numbers showing up at where I'm at in the graph. So that's pretty interesting. And I'll have the important position on the sine wave, which is either at the peak of the bottom peak of my sine wave or the top part of my sine wave, and I'll get radiant coordinates right there. So I got pi over 2, 1, because I got 1, and this is my pi over 2, and then the intersection, which is 0. So you got these three at least that are automatically on your graph, but you can move your finger across that function and you'll see numbers changing, which I find pretty cool, pretty interesting also. So let's go back. I can do a cosine. So to change my equation, I'm just going to hit that delete, and it's going to erase my equation. I can put a cosine of x and graph that. So it's going to be a bit different than what we had, because now it's not going to intersect to the 0 because it's a cosine. And again, I can zoom in or zoom out into my graph. I cannot use at the moment my pinch and zoom because we're not controlling this part of the screen, but I can use the buttons here. Okay. So if I go back, these are my trigs. So you can play around with my trigonometric functions. And remember, you need those two variables in order to work in the graphing. So you need that y and that x. So if right now my Trigo menu is the one highlighted. So if I tap right beside it, you have a INV menu. So if I tap on that, that means that it's all the trigonometric functions inversed. So I got my sine to the -1, so that's going to be my inverse of my sine wave. And the same for my cosine and my tan. So it works the same way. I can enter, whoops, I went a bit too far, but I can say y is equal to inverse sine of x and graph that. So that's going to be my inverse function of the sine. So you got the inverse, you got the trig functions, and then right at the bottom of my trig function menu button, there's a MISC button. So if I tap on that, you got two menus of MISC function. The first one, MISC1, which is already highlighted on your panel there, is your exponential functions. Your exponential function, your logarithmic functions. You have also a percentage function. Everybody knows what a percentage is, and a modulus function. And I'm going to keep the polygon for the last because that's the most exciting function that you'll see on this calculator. So I'm going to keep that for the end. But basically, what we can do here, we're going to start with the exponential function. So I'm going to say y is equal to e. And again, that exponent symbol is going to be right under my x on the first interface here, which is a little hat on the top. And I'm going to put x. And we're going to graph that. There you go. So you got an exponential function that you can use. Let's say I want to use the inverse of an exponential function, which is my logarithmic ln function. I called it natural logarithmic function. So I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to see if my log, where's my ln function, is going to be my inverse of my exponential function. Oops. So there's my ln function that is traced out into my graphic right here. So you can use this also, I forgot to mention, but you can use this with Wi-Fi or without Wi-Fi. So this can be used without internet connection. Yeah, so I have a little question here. Is there a way to enlarge the actual numbers on the graph, not zoom onto the graph, but make the grid a bit bigger? Not with a pinch and zoom, not with the buttons. We cannot do that. But if you triple tap, if you have your accessibility gestures activated in Android, you can do that. And then once you're zoomed in, you can pan using 2 fingers on the screen. You can pan through. And you can even go bigger if you want. No, okay, so I can't do that in this application, but this is the biggest that you can get. For now, we cannot to go out, you triple tap again. For now, we cannot do it with the buttons. It's a Desmos functionality that is not available to us right now. Okay, so just to complete on that, my triple tap, I don't know if everybody knows how to go and activate it, but let's pause here the calculator and I'll show you where to go to activate this triple tap. So what you want to do is that you want to use your 5 fingers or 4 fingers on the screen, press and hold, and you're out into Android, go into all applications, and then look for settings. And okay, so that's my next topic, but I locked out my settings for the exam mode. And then in the settings, you will scroll down and you will see accessibility. Click on that. And in accessibility, there's an option, magnification gestures. So if you click on that, just activate that gesture and you'll get that 3-tap going for you, okay? So I'm gonna go back to my calculator. So we're back to my ln function right here. Let's continue with these math functions. So go back to my MIS. I have also 2 log functions. So I had my ln function, which is this one right here, ln, which is natural logarithmic functions, but also have logarithmic functions right underneath, which I have one which is only log and the other one is log a. So the one that says log, whoops, I didn't want to do that. I'm just going to delete my equation here. Again, I went a bit too far. So my log function is going to be my log to the base of 10. Usually that's the one that we'll be using a lot, more than the other one, which I'm going to show you a bit later. But let's do a log of x and graph that. So that's my log x. Again. So the difference between the log and the log a is that with the log a, I can change the base of that function. So usually how it's going to be written, it's going to be written as log and a little number at the bottom of that j. So if I do log, and then I'm going to say the base of 8. So you got that little 8 that just showed up. So that's the base of 8. And then I'm going to put my x, and I will graph that. And that should give me my log base 8. Okay, so you can try these and get used to them. And then the percentage is the easiest function of all. It's really going to give you the percentage of a number. So let's say I want to have 200. I'm going to delete my equation here, and I will write 200%. So 200% will be 2. So if I do 200%, it's going to be 2. So if I graph that, is it going to graph anything? It's not going to graph anything because it's a number. But it's going to tell me the answer right underneath, and then I can write some other numbers there. So I can say 200% of a certain number of 500. That's 2,000. It's 1,000 really. And then I can continue on writing. So this really tells you that I'm looking for 200% of 500, and the answer is at the bottom, which is 1,000, because 200% is 2, and then you want that for 500, which will give you times 2. So we can delete that. And we're going to go to the next function in my miscellaneous menu, which is the mod. The modulus function is when you divide 2 numbers and there's a remainder left to it, that's the result of modulus. It's going to be the remainder of a divider. So what you want to do, we can write a function to graph that. We can say, graph me all the x with when I divide it by 2 and give me the remainder of that. So this is how you would write it. So modulus 2 of the x value. So if I graph that, it's gonna give me like a weird shape here. So that's gonna be my modulus 2 of each x value on my graph. Next, so that was my first miscellaneous menu, and we'll come back to the Polygon because that's the most exciting function. So we're going to go to MIS2. So MIS2 menu, you have the floor function, the ceiling function, which I'm not going to go through because they're really easy to understand. The floor function will give you the floor of a number, and then the ceiling is going to be the top number, and then the rounding will round it off to the closest decimal. And then you can have right underneath the floor function, you have the derivative of a function. So you can graph that if you want. That's kind of interesting. So I came out with a little function yesterday that we can write together. So let's say we're gonna try to solve the derivative of 1 divided by 2 x to the 2. So I'll just show you. I'm going to show you here what I wrote here. I don't know if you can see my pad, but this is the equation we're trying to resolve here. So the derivative of half x to the 2 plus 3x plus 2. So that's what I'm going to write here on my calculator. So 1 divided by 2, x to the 2 plus 3x plus 2. I'm going to close my parentheses and graph that. That should give me like a linear form, wave form. So that's what we have. So that's my derivative. That's my what it would look like, my derivative from that function. And in the next version of Prodigy, Prodigy 4.3, which will come out in April next month, mid-April, you'll have access to an integral function in here. So in MIS 2, you'll have an integral function that will be added to the calculator. And then right beside the derivative function, you have a sine function. And the sine function, I really never used it. And I did a lot of math, but really I did a bit of research on that function. And the definition of sine is extract the sine of a real number. And really, the word for that is signum. So you can play around with that function. I'm going to let it in your hands to play around with that function to see how it goes. And then I'm going to jump to the JCD and LCM function. So let's start with the JCD. So JCD is the greatest common divider. Okay. So it's going to be the largest positive integer that divides each of the integer that's inside that function. So how does that translate in this calculator, and how can we graph that? So what we can do is use that function and say, I want to have the greatest divisor of x and y, and I want the answer everything below 7. So that's gonna give me a weird graph here, but basically what it does is that everything that's in purple right now, that's where the answer is. That's where that's where the equation returns 1 or returns true. So we can do something different here, and we can put a variable here and graph that, and that's going to give us something special. So I'm going to let you play around with that, but that's the result of these functions. And it's the same thing for the other function. If you go to MIS 2 and you use the LCM, which is the least common multiple function. So least common multiple is the smallest positive integer that is divisible by both of the numbers that are in the equation. So again, it's going to be written the same way. LCM x comma y. You can put numbers there if you want and play around with the results. And then let's see what this does. And again, it's going to give me something that's very similar to the other one, but that gives me all the results of that equation. And again, all these results of these equations can be done with or without Wi-Fi. And then there's one that I left for last, which is in the MIS 1 menu, and that's a polygon. Because the polygon, my son is 10 years old, and I went up to him yesterday and said, "You remember what a polygon is?" And actually he did, and he said it's a shape with different sides. So you can have a polygon with 3 sides, which is a triangle. You can have a polygon with 4 sides, or 5 or 6. So it's shapes. So you can graph shapes compared to the points on a graph. So that's what we're going to do. So I have one set up, which is going to do a triangle, just so that because it's long to write. So you're going to hit that Polygon function, and then you have to enter all the points on your graph that you want those points. So we're going to write 3 points of interest. So I'm going to, the open bracket is already there for my polygon, but I'm going to open another bracket for my first coordinate, and then I'm going to write -5, go back, comma, and then 2. Close the brackets. So that's my first coordinate. I want a second coordinate. I'm going to open another bracket for my second coordinate, and then I'm going to write 3, comma, 1, close bracket, and one last coordinate. Going too fast here. Open bracket, -3, comma, 1. And then I'm going to close 2 brackets here, one for the polygon and one for my third coordinate, and I'm going to graph that. It should give me a triangle, which it does. So you can draw all kinds of shapes here that you want, but basically our 3 main points, or my main coordinates that I've entered, are the 3 peaks of that triangle. I have one here, and I have one there, and I have one there, and so that's my triangle that I just plotted. So that's very interesting to have when teaching polygons and what it is. So this is the graphing calculator. It's going to continue improving. This is our first iteration in Prodigy. I had a suggestion this morning on my morning webinar to include kind of like a simple fraction calculator on the Google Classroom, so we'll be looking into that. And if you do have any more suggestions on this, send them over and we'll try to improve it. And also there was one suggestion to maybe copy all the functions that the TI-84 calculator had when APH had it. So I have a question. Can the graphs be shared through email or putting into Canvas as part of homework answers? See, when I'm talking about good suggestions, that would be a good suggestion. Right now, as a first iteration of this application, you cannot do that, but that could be very interesting. And you can maybe copy paste your result from the graph, put it in the annotation tool, and hand in your homework through email. That would be awesome. Thank you for that. Can you screenshot? You can maybe use you can maybe screenshot using the Android shortcut, which I can't remember on the top of my head, but that would work. Okay, so next topic that I'd like to address is how to set up your Math Connect for your student to take an exam. And I went through a couple of procedures. I think I came up with one. It's a bit complicated for now, but by doing this, I think moving forward, I'm going to simplify this procedure for you guys to do. Well, basically, you can do different things. So what I ended up doing is that I ended up going into my APH application. And APH application, for those who don't know, is an application where you have several applications that are pre-installed on the Math Connect and are listed in this application. So and also you can choose any other applications and you can add them to that list. So I'm just gonna, because I reset my tablet before the webinar, so I don't have all the default applications, but I'm just gonna add a couple here that I know that are inside by default inside that application. And one of the applications I want to talk about is Lockdown Pro. So Lockdown Pro is an application to lock down applications, third-party applications that you don't want a student or somebody else to use with a password. So this is included on your Math Connect. If I start that, I have a password to enter that. And right now my password is only 4 number 7s. But then you can go down the list and you see all the applications that you can lock down. This is a good application. It works fine. But what I couldn't do on this application, and I found another way to do it, which I'm going to teach you today, is to lock down, let's say, the distance application in Prodigy and the books application in Prodigy and maybe the calculator application in Prodigy. So I was not able to do that through Lockdown Pro, but I can, if I want to, lock down the Chrome application, which I have right here. I'm going to move it closer to the camera, but I have my Chrome application right here. So when I tap on it, it locks that application. So each time I'm going to go into my Android and start my Chrome application, it's going to prompt me for a password. And usually the student should not have the password, only the teacher. So it works fine for third-party applications, but not so great when it comes to Prodigy applications. So what I end up doing is that I searched the internet and I found an application that works. So I'm going to go back to my Prodigy, and I'm going to show you an application. If you don't have it, I'm going to show you how to get it, but it's called App Lock. And if you don't have that installed on your Mad Connect, you can do that by the simplest way is to go into your APH toolbox here, go into settings, and add the Playstore. You can go also in the Android system, but I like playing around with Prodigy here. So I'm going to search here my Playstore. I'm going to add that to my list, go back to my list, and now at the top of my list, I have the Google Play Store. So when you go into the Google Play Store, if you have an account already set up, you'll go here and you'll find all the applications that you need. But basically, in the search, what you want to look for, and type in App Lock. Okay. Once you do that, you'll find App Lock by Do Mobile Lab. And mine's already installed. I only have an update to do, but I can't install it. But install it. Once it's installed, go back into Prodigy and add it to your list, exactly like I did for my store. So I add it to my list, and now I can go into my App Lock. My App Lock, instead of being a number password, it's going to be a gesture. And then it's the same procedure as Lockdown Pro, but basically what you go through inside here, you see all the applications that are installed on the tablet that you can lock. So right now I've locked Chrome. I can see my distance application in Prodigy. So if I move it a bit closer, I don't know if that's going to work, but there's a distance application with a red icon on it. And that's the Prodigy application to do distance. So I've logged that as an example. And also, if you move up the list here, you have the possibility to prevent turning on or off the Wi-Fi. So let's say you set up your Mat Connect in order not to work with Wi-Fi. So you disconnected the Wi-Fi, and then you come here and you lock that. The student won't be able to turn it back on again. So that's one way of locking your Wi-Fi. The other way is to forget your network. But next time you'll have to log in, you'll have to enter the password, okay? So this is one way. I'll show you the other way. I'm just going to unlock it here for the sake of demonstration. So if you don't want your student to be using Wi-Fi, what you can do, one of the solution is to go into your settings into Prodigy, and then System, Wi-Fi. This is where we're set up, where we went for our updates. Wi-Fi setup. Select the Wi-Fi that you're connecting on, and just forget the Wi-Fi. Once you do that, it's always going to prompt you for a password to go into the Wi-Fi. Okay, so that's one way. Or the other way is just to turn off your Wi-Fi, and then have the application App Lock. Have the security there, so that you can turn on or off the Wi-Fi. So I'm back on, back connected, just in case here. Okay, so I want to show you here the distance camera. So how that App Lock application works. So let's say I'm not allowed using my distance application. I'm going to turn on my distance camera. I'm going to tap on my distance application. And as soon as I do that, it prompts me for my gesture. So the student cannot you use a distance application. So that's a nice way to prevent students to use specific applications, just like the Chrome. Let's say I have it in my APH toolbox. I've locked it out on the app lock application. Click on Chrome and it locked it out. So I can't use it. So I have to go back to my Prodigy. Okay. And one teacher asked me, how can I block everything except for the calculator? Okay, that was an interesting question, and we'll be working on improving this procedure, but the only way right now to do that is you have to go out into Android, okay? And I'm just gonna go out and you're gonna get to that desktop. You're gonna go into your all applications of the tablet, and then what you wanna do, uninstall Prodigy. So long press on Prodigy, bring it to uninstall, do okay. Don't worry, we'll get it back, okay? But by doing that, if I go into all my applications, I'll still see calculator, I'll still see distance, and I'll still see, where's my books? There's a books application, books. So all these applications are used inside Prodigy. So what's gonna happen is that I can tap on calculator and have only that operating. So you can only have your student working on that calculator and nothing else. Okay, so for now, that's the only procedure I have for that. I found it a very interesting use case, and we'll be improving on that. So if you want to reinstall Prodigy that we just uninstall, what you do, again in Android, go and tap on Prodigy Updater. And you have to be connected to Wi-Fi and just install, and it's going to notice that Prodigy is not installed, so it's going to download it and install it on your tablet. So what's going to happen is that it's going to install it. You're not going to lose anything in your gallery. All your captures are still going to be there. All your notes are still going to be there, but your application list in APH toolbox will be empty. So you can just add afterwards the applications that you need by hand if you want to continue using the APH toolbox. So I have a little question here. Can you block the Playstore so the student can't download games? Of course you can. I'll show you how to do that. And again, it's still going to be with Lockdown Pro or App Lock. So I have just installed my Prodigy again. I'm going to go into my APH tool. Unfortunately, all my applications are not there anymore, but I can choose my applications. And what I want to do is, in the question that I have here, I want to use App Lock. So I'm going to add App Lock, and I'm going to use my Google Play. And have you noticed that now I have to scroll on every option that I have on my list because I have that locator there? That's because I'm speaking out everything that's in the menu. If you want to not use that, what you can do is go into settings, and then you select audio, and then the first option is going to be speech. Go on to speech and select document only or off as you wish. So it's only going to use the speech when you're going to have a document to read out, and off, well, it's always going to be off, but you can still read the document when activated. So you can go back. Now I don't have that locator in my menus, so I can scroll down. So to answer the question that I had right here, how can I log the Play Store? Go in your App Lock or your Lockdown Pro, and then search. I'm using a free trial here. And then search in the list of application, search for the Play Store. It should be all in alphabetical order, or at the top. There we go. So on this one, it's on the top, so I have Google Play Store. So I can tap on that, it's gonna lock it. So what's gonna happen is that when I go back and I click or I select the Google Play Store, it's going to ask me for a password. So you can't go into the Google Play at all unless you have the password. And you won't be able to install any games if you're not going to the Playstore. I hope that answers your question. And if you want to use, let's say, Lockdown Pro, which is already installed on your tablet, and you don't want to go and install any other applications, I can go and search my Lockdown Pro, put it in my list, and that's my Lockdown Pro. And again, in Lockdown Pro, you should be able to find the Google Play Store. So it's going to be in the list somewhere. But basically, once you find it, tap on it, and you'll be locked out unless you have the password. Okay, so that's for Lockdown Pro or the app lock. So I have another question. Thanks. Can you lock yourself out by trying to guess the password? Well, when setting up either of these applications, there is an email that you can enter in order to recover your password. But I was not able to lock myself out when trying the password. I don't think there's a limit of times that you can try to access or try to password inside those applications. So that's for the webinar. So I'm open for questions, and please continue asking me questions, either for Connect 12 or the Prodigy Connect 12 or the Math Connect. I remember one of the questions in the morning webinar is, how do you go from your calculator and quickly go to your near view to answer a worksheet? So that, I found that very interesting, and we'll improve on that procedure because I think it's not quick enough. But basically, if you're in your calculator, you're doing your graph, whatever, what you can do is, again, that two-finger, double tap on the screen, you're out there, and then you can select your magnifier. You have your worksheet underneath, and again, I'm sitting down at my desk. I know that for kiddos, they're going to have their screen really low. What I suggest is maybe use a small pencil or something like that to have your hand underneath. But a better way is take a capture of your worksheet. So what I've did on mine is that I have a corner here, a tape corner. So two tapes, and I do a corner. And I know that this corner, when my page is in that corner, I can get a full page. So to get a full page, I'm going to bring it up. You'll feel a little vibration where it's going to be parallel to the base. Just bring it up and just use your finger and press and hold on the screen. And it's going to take a capture of your worksheet. And then you can bring the screen down. Okay, well, right now my worksheet is going to try to find some OCR, but we'll go to natural colors afterwards because it's not going to have a good result. And then what you want to do is that you want to save that worksheet. You're going to save that worksheet, and it's going to be saved in your in your gallery. And then that little button here, that the third button from the left, the pencil button, when you tap on it, you can start writing your answers on a worksheet. So you can zoom in and start writing some answers on your worksheet. And once you need your calculator, again, two fingers double tap, you're back into your, okay, you're not there we go. So you're back to your main menu, and then you can scroll to your calculator, back to what you were doing, double tap, go back to your gallery, and the first worksheet is there to you to access and start modifying. Okay, so that can be one solution, and the other solution would be to do it manually. And then once you're done with the writing and annotating the sheet, you can share it by going into gallery, press and hold, and then share it, convert it into a PDF, and then share it through Google Drive or by email. Okay, so I have a question here I'm not sure to understand. Go quickly to install Prodigy icon from Updater. I don't really understand the question, but the Prodigy updater in the Android system will be there to help you either update the application, or if you've uninstalled one of the Prodigy application, it will be there to download the latest version and to install it on your Math Connect. Okay. So I showed you two ways on going back and forth from the calculator to the worksheet, either live or in soft copy. And this is something that we're going to be improving. And one of the ideas that came out in the morning webinar is that maybe have a split screen, just like we have on a distance viewing camera, where you have the split screen and the near view. So you can have both, the calculator on top and then the near view at the bottom. Or something like that, or a gesture to flip back and forth to that application, which were great ideas, and we're going to integrate into the roadmap. And what's great about your Math Connect or Prodigy Connect 12 is that if you're connected to Wi-Fi, you get all these updates, these free updates, and we still improve on these devices all the time. And the goal is to get the latest technology in the hands of the students, so they can start using that technology and go and have success in their life, either get a job or go higher education, and that's the main goal. Again, please keep those questions. I'm here for questions. I'll try to solve them for you. And the goal for you guys should be to maybe try to get me stuck somewhere, so I look ridiculous on this webinar. That would be one of your goals. So I see that we have Sam Adler, one of our reps. Come on, Sam, give me a question. In the meantime, I'm going to ask Leanne just to type me in the closing code for this webinar, and maybe type in the URL for the survey. And also, Leanne just posted on the chat my email. So Eric, ERIC, .Beauchamp, BEAUCHAMP, @humanware.com, and email me your question if you don't have, if you're shy in this webinar to ask me questions. Just email me your questions or email me your problems, and I'll try to fix them for you. And again, the goal is to get that technology in the hands of the students. And again, Leanne just posted a URL with all the training material, with all the upcoming webinars that we'll be having. And I can maybe share that with you guys here. Let me just open that link. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see where on the aph.org website you can check out the next webinars that we'll be hosting. So this is my screen right now. As you can see, I'm on the APH website. When you go to aph.org, you go under educational resources, and then training. And this is the page you'll see. And at the bottom, this is the webinar for today that you can register for the both times here. And then the next one is going to be on April 23rd, and we'll be talking about the Books Application. And what's the Books Application? It's the interface between Bookshare and Prodigy. And what's going to be really, really interesting is that in April, in the new version 4.3 of Prodigy, you'll be able to have books with images in them, because right now, in the latest version, we're reading them in column mode, and now you'll have access to a page mode. So that's going to be very powerful for students when reading math books, for example. Doesn't make really sense to read math when you don't have any graphics on there. So that will be awesome, and it will go through also how to share books with your students, how to do that, how your students will be able to get those books on the Math Connect. And also, I see that Leanne shared with you guys the survey that I would love for you to answer, because that's the way that I improve myself, and we get quality webinars to you and hear what you guys want to hear, or hear what you guys want to hear about or learn about. And that's how we change or bring some useful stuff for you guys. Okay. And I will send out also after this webinar. I'll send out through you guys, through the emails that I got from your registration. I'll send you a link to the recorded webinar, because this webinar was recorded. I'll send you the link to that. I'll send you also the link to the survey if you missed it out, and I'll send you the link to the future webinars on the next webinars also. So thank you very much for attending, and I think this is the best way to spend our time in these COVID crisis. Stay safe, stay at home, work from home, learn as much as you can, and get that technology out into the hands of the students. And again, I'm free for your questions. If you have them, email me, write to me, and I'll be happy to answer or direct you to the right person to answer your questions. Thank you again. Have a great day and stay safe.